What a week it has been. I'm Matt O'Donnell. It's so good to be with you here. Today's conversation here on Inside Story is going to be about the state of our mental health during this pandemic. These are really trying times. We're going to talk about what we can do to help ourselves and what we can do to help others. And Steve McClatchy of Malvern, who is the president of Alere Training and Consulting. He's a motivational speaker and the author of the book Decide, which is about how changing the way you make decisions can change your life. I heard this a couple of times coming from some people I really respect, and it's this. I'm not so much worried about what we're going to do to other people in this crisis. I'm worried about what we're going to do to ourselves. I want to start with Steve. What are you worried about as we go through this pandemic, Steve?
The number one way we identify ourselves is when we face and step up to challenging work. When we work on our goals, that progress and that movement forward is really where we get our self-identity, self-worth, and self-esteem. So I am encouraging a lot of people to pull out those goals and start working on them.
What frustrates you when you see people making the wrong decisions during this pandemic, and what wrong decisions are people making in your eyes?
The sensitivity we have, Matt, to fear, right, is so great. And in the field of psychology, they call it the negativity bias, that negative information affects us a lot greater than positive information does. Well, we have a lot of negative coming at us right now. And what we need to do is balance that with the positive. That's why working on our goals, feeling a sense of accomplishment, attacking work, setting a plan for the day, this gives us a purpose as we go through the day. But if we're just checking the news, checking the stock market, and hearing bad thing after bad thing, it can really weigh on our mental health.
Steve McClatchy, do you have any thoughts about parents talking to children? How honest, how brutally honest do people need to be?
Yeah, I guess that depends on the age of the child and what they're capable of hearing, but understanding the structure that they need, the predictability that they need, that creates a sense of security that there's lots of things in this world that are changing right now. But what we need to assure kids is there's lots of things that will never change. And when we can assure them of that, we can create the predictability of that. I think that gives them a comfort zone that we can handle these kinds of things, because this won't be the last time. Hurricanes come, snowstorms, things that create that uncertainty and doubt. And we're teaching these kids by example, how do you step up and approach these things? How do we approach these things as a family? And I think that there's lessons in that they can take with them throughout their lives.
What do you think about that, Steve? Coming out of your shell, crying in front of other people when you're trying to still be positive?
There's a certain amount of empathy and compassion we have to have for that, and understanding. Just being able to connect with people on that level is a very bonding experience. You don't always have to have the right thing to say. When we can just empathize that, yeah, I feel just as uncertain. I feel the same way. I know how frustrating this is. Can help a lot. Just as, we have a need as human beings, and that need is to be understood. And we have emotions that we can't share that aren't understood. That can be frustrating and distancing emotionally. I mean, we have to stay apart physically, but we don't have to do it emotionally. And just being able to connect with that person, because I've had people do this to me recently, and just being with them, just being there, saying, I know, this is crazy. It's so frustrating. We don't know when this is going to end. It will end. And then I turn the conversation into leading it, right? So once you empathize with it and you have compassion for it, you lead it in the direction of this is going to end. And on the other side of this, there's going to be our goals and things we can control and things we can get back to and normalcy. So knowing it's not permanent can help them as well. It helps us too to understand that. So yeah, there's a lot that we're sharing with each other. And if somebody's sharing a lot with you, I say just be there and empathize with it, understand what they're going through. And I think that can help them a lot. And it'll help you as well.
Steve McClatchy, how many times have you had to count to 10?
There's 6 of us in this house, and we're doing pretty good.
What would your advice be? It is okay to have super frustrating moments. Normally, we spend most of our time with our colleagues at work.
I mentioned in the beginning of this that we have a negativity bias, and we're so much more sensitive to negative. And, we're constantly scanning for perfection. And when we see imperfection, we can jump all over it, and when we're with people all the time, that can be a tendency. And, my next book, Matt, is on the topic of maturity and relationships. And that maturity comes with understanding there's strengths, there's weaknesses. People do have idiosyncrasies and shortcomings and flaws, and they also have strengths and endearing qualities. And the challenge when you're with somebody all the time is focusing on, drawing out, highlighting those strengths and the best parts of those personalities. And if we're all doing that for each other and not jumping on each and every flaw or weakness, it really builds relationships. It builds confidence. It builds trust in each other, that we're safe with each other. We don't have to be perfect all the time.
That's Inside Story for this week. I'm Matt O'Donnell. We go back to Action News after this.